What is up, YouTube? That's here today. I'm back playing more VGC 2023 Regulation D rank battles, and today we're doing more Patreon team fixing. That's right, if you guys have a team you want me to take a look at, make a video about, and do my absolute best to tweak and change and fix to make it the best possible team I can make it, think about letting me know. Think about checking out the Patreon. There's a link to the Patreon in the description. Even the lowest tier, the $2 tier, gets access to this whole post, all the teams on there. We're making daily VGC rental teams, fixings, posts on Patreon. It's a bunch of cool stuff. Think about checking it out. This team today is submitted by Boston Johnson, and they have a whole huge write-up showing like why they chose the mon they chose, what they want to use this team for. They want to use this team for best of 3 open team sheet tournament. I think they're actually taking this to a regional relatively soon. The 2024 season is starting faster than we actually think. I've read this whole write-up. It's actually a really good write-up, so think about checking this out. And if we go back to the actual team itself, I think this team is very, very good for what an aggressive team would be. It has some potential speed control, dynamic speed control from like things like Tornadus. It has some Icy Wind and Trick Room play from Cresselia. Pretty much a good solid team. I think they said they had a pretty average win rate with this team, and I feel like that's just what kind of happens with this core. This is a very average core. You're not leaning too hard into hyper offense, and you're not going too hard into hard trick room. You're playing more of a tail room team. So I would say like this is the sort of team, if you were to go to like a regional, you'd probably expect to like barely go positive. Let's say it's like a 9-round regional. This is like a 5-4 team with the potential of good matchups into being a 6-3, which would get you circuit points at that event in some situations. So I feel like this team is good. I feel like you could potentially change it and play a more POW Knight variant if you want to be a little bit more hyper aggressive and excel in some matchups and be weaker in others. But this is a pretty good balanced team, not to say it is a balanced style team. Pretty solid. I think the biggest thing that they're going to be taking away from this video and how I would change this team isn't necessarily changes to make to the specific mons, because the mons themselves are great. Obviously, there's some moveset changes and EV changes that we can make. If we take like a real quick look right here, the Cresselia could be more optimized defensively to utilize its nature, I would say. Iron Hands is wasting some points on its EVs. We can definitely clean that up. Urshifu doesn't have Detect, definitely would need Detect in a situation like this. Same thing goes for like Landorus. You can clean those EVs up just a little bit. Torn, I would say you can clean these EVs up a little bit. This is one of my favorite Gholdengo sets. I like this one a lot, but I don't think you need Thunderbolt in this meta. So I think that like you can clean some stuff up to make it excel in some games that might be close, but realistically, I think the biggest thing they should take away isn't changing the mons or the move sets to give you an advantage in the matchup. It's actually learning how to win games 2 and 3 by going into like different flowchart settings. So for example, you want to take and organize all of your lead options into like S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier. We're not gonna have time to do that today. That's something that I would normally, do in a one-on-one coaching session over like the course of like an hour and multiple sessions. But realistically, you want to think like every single situation where you can actually use your core partners and set up like what you want to do in game 1, what you want to do in game 2, what you want to do in game 3. There's nothing really wrong with like losing game 1 or losing a game 2 to condition your opponent into making the right play for game 3. So like what I would recommend with this team is like going with something that could work in game 1, and if it does work, cool. You have a huge advantage to leverage on your opponent in that mental game, and you can go for a finishing blow early. Maybe go for like a huge like Landorus Urshifu play into a play where like you Earthquake and also like Earthquake your own Urshi and go for like a huge all-in play, and then that aggression in that game 2 could potentially condition your opponent into really respecting that aggression in like game 3, and then in game 3 you just go like a trick room play, right? You just go really, really relaxed and go trick room, right? So stuff like that. It's all about the mental game and thinking about what you could gain in a best of 3 open team sheet setting, and taking that approach to the matchup is going to be hard to do in like a best of 1 ladder situation, but I think that's the biggest thing that you need to think about when taking a team like this, which is very, very standard, to a best of 3 open team sheet tournament. That being said, I've talked way too long. We're going to go play some games. We're going to play this game live and hopefully get some good wins. I think this is going to be a fun team to play, and yeah, let's hop right into it. Wish me luck. Here we go. Okay, Brambleghast. So against like Brambleghast, Pelipper, I'm really happy there's no Basket Legion over there, but Raichu's a little bit weird. Let's think, what do we want to do here? I wonder if that's actually going to be Urshi Water. I would say it should be Urshi Dark on this sort of team. There's 2 or 3 different ways to play against these guys. I feel like you could probably realistically lead Urshifu here. I think Urshifu is a decent mon, because if they want to enable the Tailwind to make Brambleghast work, Urshifu just says like, you done. Urshifu has a higher base speed than some of those guys as well. So like we can go like Urshi Torn into this and probably have a pretty good matchup. I would say there's nothing really wrong with going hands here either. I think in some situations Landorus could be good, but I would probably go something like hands Gholdengo. And I think, you know, we were talking a little bit about at the very start of the video, like changing the way that you play the team as opposed to like directly changing the Pokemon. I think that if you're ever in a situation where you think you should be leading Gholdengo with this team, you should not. Unless like you're going for, like I was talking about, that finishing blow, like all in play that they shouldn't expect, or unless like you're much better than your opponent, you shouldn't really be leading Gholdengo. The only reason why Gholdengo works as a lead with like a spec set is, first of all, the sets that I've used use Trick sometimes, and also like when you pair it with Murkrow, it's a little bit different because you can haze yourself. But what good players do against a team like this, if you're just a lead Gholdengo, they'll pivot in something like a Heatran, protect with their teammate, make you waste or make it rain, and then you're stuck at a -1, and you have to switch, but you don't have anything really good to switch to when you just lose too much tempo. So you actually should be saving Gholdengo for like a finishing blow in the very late stages of the game, in my personal opinion. So against this sort of board, they led Urshifu Water Pelipper, and so this is where, if I was playing this team, I feel like your Tornadus is actually, it's fast enough to work here, but we don't know if there's Scarf Urshifu. I would probably just open up Bleakwind and Wicked Blow into the Pelipper, stop their Tailwind. I don't care if their Urshifu KOs our Urshifu because we stopped their Tailwind, and then from there we just would be able to bring out the Gholdengo, set the Tailwind, and win the game. Like I was talking about, save that Gholdengo in the back. So let's just go Wicked Blow into the Pelipper. If they want to wide guard, they can wide guard. I don't think that's the biggest deal, but I think we're okay here. Note that we could also Terastallize our Urshifu here, but I don't think it's really worth it. So let's see what happens. I would say I would feel comfortable with a little bit more speed on Tornadus to be able to make sure they're outspeeding Pelipper, because if that's actually a Scarf Pelipper, it does outspeed us right now. They're losing their weakness to flying here. Hopefully we get some, okay, cool, no wide guards, no nothing. Hopefully it's not Scarf Urshifu. Actually, Scarf Urshifu would have been faster, so like we should be able to, oh, they are Scarf. No, that could have been a speed tie. That could have been a speed tie. They just hit the Torn. That's completely fine. That's absolutely fine. That's probably just a speed tie. We're using a full speed Urshifu, right? It is what it is. That is what it is. Unless they were like Scarf to be able to like outspeed them by like 1 point. But we denied Tailwind here. And because they don't really have that many good options for speed control, I think we're going to be a good spot. This is where I know personally for me, like, I really wish our Urshifu had Detect. Not for their Urshifu, but for their other Mons. I think we're just going to bring out Hands here. Hands is a pretty solid Mon. You can come and threaten Fake Out pressure. I wonder if they're going to go Raichu here. If they do go Raichu, we just trade Fake Outs. And then we pivot out to avoid Encore. Rilla. Okay, we just trade Fake Outs then and pivot to avoid Encore. So the play here is to double into their Urshifu. Right? Because they should be Fake Outing our Urshifu, we should be Fake Outing their Urshifu, and then next turn, you know, we'll see what we need to do. But we should be fine here. And even if they wanted to, they could go for a Fake Out play into our hands, going with a faster Fake Out, and then, again, that would come down to like a speed tie, like it was last time. I don't think that Sucker Punch gets that KO on their Urshifu here. I do not think that it does. And we are Jolly, so yeah, let's just go for it. Risking it for the biscuit out here. Speed Tie City. We do get a Fake Out. And let's see, well, that's not a Fake Out trade, so they're just going to lose their Urshifu. And we did, I don't know if we saw we won the speed tie, but we take out their Urshifu, and it looks like they're just opening up with, they shouldn't U-turn, they shouldn't knock off either. If they're wood hammering, that's fine, I don't really care. But remember kind of what I talked about here? The wood hammer's absolutely fine, doesn't even get the KO. What Mon do we have in the back? It's Gholdengo. They already wasted their Tera, they already wasted everything, and Gholdengo is just a really, really good checkmate piece in the back. Raichu, there it is. Cool. Fine with me. So they can Fake Out here. I don't think there's an issue with just pivoting in the Gholdengo, saving their Urshifu for, if we had Protect, this is where we would use it. And then, like, it doesn't really matter what we do. I'm just going to go for the Drain Punch into the Raichu slot. Just to break potential Sash so Gholdengo can come in and win the game. We should be able to get this one. One thing about your team is that, like, when you're playing in an open team sheet setting, maybe I should save this for, like, a little bit more, like, advanced breakdown when we actually break down the EVs. Yeah, I think I will. I'll say it at the very end. They Encore the Fake Out. This is absolutely fine. We just wanted to bring in the Gholdengo. And next turn, I actually almost want to say we can just chill here. Woodhammer's not going to do that much. Because we, oh, that's actually, is that a crit? Ugh, that's just a lot of damage. That's a little bit too much damage. I didn't think that that would do that much to this Gholdengo set. Are they banded? They could definitely be banded. We're just going to go for the Make It Rain. Pivot in here. And even if they like were to KO the Dango, I'm surprised I did that much. I really thought that was going to do about a third. And then we would be out of the range of Thunder. Because right now they can just Thunder us right in the face. Let's see. Gholdengo probably lives it though. Yeah, let's see. I'm surprised I did that much. I think they're banded. I don't think they're vested. I think they're banded really, because that did a lot. Gholdengo resists it. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We outspeed. Thunder. Nuzzle. Okay, so they're going to be able to outspeed the Dango now. They're probably going to go into that slot, but then we get to bring out hands. Knock off. We're not that type anymore. We're not that guy anymore. Choice specs Dunzo. Making it rain. Who needs those specs, though? We're going to see a lot about their set here. Cool. So that probably is Vested Rilla, and it's just like full attack Adamant, like angry Vested Rilla. But Nuzzle's good here. Let's think about this. I think that we could probably get away with Sucker Punching the Raichu, because the Raichu should most definitely be using Nuzzle into our Urshi, right? And so what I'm actually going to do is just stay in and Make It Rain, because we'll be able to KO the Rilla, and Sucker Punch. Hopefully it works. Let's go. Raichu Dunzo. Now it's a single target, and then you're going to be going like a Wood Hammer into the Urshifu, and then Make It Rain just because single target. Knock off. Oh, they just ignore that slot. Absolutely fine. They probably thought we were going to detect on our Urshi or something, which we would not. Cool. There we go. I'm surprised they didn't go for the... I mean, they went for the Nuzzle. They went for the Nuzzle on the Urshi, hoped that we would get full parried, and then they went for the kill on the Dango. Not a bad play, but like we still have the full HP hands. So it wasn't as clean as like we wanted it to be, and that's going to lean into exactly like what I wanted to talk about at the end of this game, which is you don't have Protect, which means you actually can't outplay good players because you just don't have the tools. In an open team sheet, other people are looking at your team and using your team as a cheat sheet, looking in the back of the book to see how they can pin you, right? So when you have this Gholdengo that doesn't have Protect, right? Obviously, you're spexed. You have this Tornadus that does have Protect, but this is the one that doesn't even need it because it has a cloak. You can't Protect here. You can't Protect here. You can't Protect here. You can't Protect here. They're basically solving for X right at the start of the game. So if you are playing against really good players and you're just like, I don't know why they just like make reads and they just pin me every single time, it's because you're actually making it easier for them, because you don't have access to defensive tools like Protect or Sub or Redirection and things like that. So going forward, that's just something that you might want to keep in mind and maybe experiment a little bit with some other Landorus sets or other Gholdengo sets. Like putting a Life Orb on either of those could definitely open them up a lot. Putting Protect on the Urshi could open up a lot. You could even use a different maybe hand set if you wanted to. And having an option for Protect is how you win those game 2 and game 3s. Again, it's exactly like what I was talking about. Understanding what you need to do to win the whole best of 3 as opposed to winning one game is the difference in between this team being like really, really good in those open team sheet settings as opposed to just a random team that can win on ladder. Okay, I really like the Mimikyu on their team. I think Mimikyu is like a really, really underrated mon. I think that King Gambit is also a good mon. I think that we could definitely still lead Urshi here. But then we have to lead, like, I wonder if Urshi hands is good. That is hard to say. This is also one of those matchups where you could definitely lead Dango. We could probably get away with like Urshi Dango here, because they don't really have that much speed control. Yes, they get a Wisp, right? But like we just need to break something, which means we don't even really need Urshi. What's our Landorus' Terra type? Is it water? It's flying for the double dip. That's good, but I mean it is technically what we need. Yeah, this is fine. But then if we proc the King Gambit, that's a game loss. We need something that could break Sash 100% of the time. This can miss, and it's slower than King Gambit. This is fine. I'm okay with both these. If we proc the King Gambit, we'll just go for an Earthquake play. We'll pivot in our Crest, play a little bit longer game. And then I think you definitely bring the Urshi or Hands. Does Hands have Water Tera or Fire Tera? Fire Tera is good. Water Tera is also good. I think that Urshi is the key to this matchup, but I don't think they're going to let me get away with it. So we will bring Hands, but I just want to let you know that I'm not a big Hands fan. It obviously won us that last game too, but it's just like, I feel like Hands is just okay. Hands is just okay. It's not one of those Mons that's like out here being, it's not Incineroar, right? As much as it wants to be, it's not Incineroar. It's definitely more of like a Hitmontop or a Scrafty without the tech moves, which means it's just okay. King Gambit Chimp is the exact way that we thought against, or we thought we would see here. So there's two ways that we play this. Obviously, we are activating the King Gambit's Defiant here, but we are able to outspeed things. And so I would think that they're going to expect this and pivot. That's what I would think. They also don't know that we're Scarfed. What I'm going to do here is click the Rock Slide. I'm going to click the Rock Slide to make it rain because I think that King Gambit's going to go Flying Tera to avoid the damage. I'm also going to Terrastalize here. I want to be able to KO everything because we're going to break the Shenpao Sash. There's a good shot that we get a double KO on this first turn, and I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to lean right into it. Cool, so I'm Terrastalizing first, which means they're not Terrastalizing Shenpao. They could still Terrastalize King Gambit, which is a slower mon than Gholdengo. But again, we're avoiding the Sucker Punches here. If they want to double Sucker Punch into our Gholdengo and ignore like the potential for me to go protect Earthquake and just win the game, that's fine. But let's see what they do here. They are Terrastalizing, so I think that they would go like Flying Tera here, or some sort of Tera that resists ground, maybe like Grass. Flying. That's exactly what we thought it was going to be. So Rock Slide is now super effective. We basically conditioned our opponent into this, and I want to say, you notice that they picked King Gambit in their first slot, which is their left, our right. They are Scarfed? Wait, what? Why is that Shenpao faster than us? Is that Scarf Shenpao? Like, is that really Scarfed? No way. I'm looking at like... Alright, so first of all, when you send your teams, you got to make sure there's level 50. I could have swore this was fast enough. No, it's not even fast enough. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I wouldn't even have done that play because I thought that our Lando was... I thought our Scarf Lando would be outspeeding Shenpao. Not outspeeding Scarf Shenpao means like... Sorry, not outspeeding base Shenpao. This is only outspeeding Genies. Means there's no reason to like have that Mon there. Have a Scarf. So we'll definitely change that. I think what we want to do is go like hands, condition the fake out, pivot out the Dango, bring in the Crest. Next turn, go for like just an Icy Wind or something. Mimikyu's fine. Oh, Mimikyu's actually kind of nice. Yeah, I can't believe that Scarf Lando is still slower than the Shenpao. It's made out to be Genies. I'm actually going to stay in. I don't actually think we care that much about this board. This might KO. I think Mimikyu's a really weird option here. Sacred Sword shouldn't get the KO. They're intimidated still, so we take those. Make It Rain KOs the Shenpao, right? Breaks the Mimius guys, and it's going to be up to hands to one-shot Mimikyu. I think Mimikyu's a really weird option. It makes me think that their last mon 1000% is Torkoal, which if we stop the Mimi here, all we gotta do is pivot out the Shenpao, fodder him on, bring it back in, and just lock in Power Gem. Or Shadow Bar, or whatever. Yeah, cool. So, weird play from our opponent. They led exactly like I wanted them to lead, but they didn't surround it with the other mons. They went for the exact Tera that I conditioned them into going for. And yeah, I just think that this Lando, like, you gotta have more speed on a Scarf set. I understand what you're going for here. Maybe I should have, like, checked it a little bit more, but, like, also, be sure to set your mons to level 50 when you submit them for the teams. I guess I could have asked that. It's my fault. But yeah, we just want to pivot this out, bring it back in, go for, like, a Power Gem. Torkoal's done so. And, yeah, we just win with hands, basically. Doesn't really matter what happens here. So we're probably going to play one more game with this team just because I do think that we can understand... every single game I play with these test teams, like I understand a little bit more about the teams. So Heatwave's fine. Again, this Torkoal can't do like anything. There's no way it wins. I really think Cresselia is such a good Pokemon. Don't forget to PP max your moves, especially those moves that only have like 5 PP. Super, super important. But we are going to be able to win this one. Gholdengo doesn't even have to take the L. And you saw how I did lead Gholdengo there. So, like, knowing when you can, like, click those all-in win condition options, it is important to be able to, like, steal games 2, steal games 3, forcing your opponent to respect certain options. And you can understand what those options are for you by going in and making those little groups of like what your S tier leads are, your A tier leads are. So like we led Gholdengo Landorus, which is a very specific lead that I thought the Landorus outsped the Shenpao, so we can go for a Rock Slide, make it rain, condition them to over-respecting Lando and get a double KO out of it, which is almost what happened, right? But I would say that's probably like a B tier lead that really only works against like Shenpao leads, right? And it was pretty obvious that they were either leading Shenpao or Mimikyu. So if you know you're fighting against Shenpao or Mimikyu, maybe you think about using that lead a little bit more often. And so just familiarizing yourself with what the leads potentially could do, I think is the key for understanding this team. Because again, it's such a basic team, but you need to really have a really good understanding of like what your matchups are and how you can influence your opponent by you know, I'm not gonna say baiting a specific play style, but like depending on how you play games 1 or 2, like you got to think when you go into that open team sheet setting, you're showing them a lot of stuff, and how you play game 1 and how reactive or how aggressive you are is going to influence how much respect they give you in games 2 and 3, and you can use that to your advantage. All right, Shempow Knight with Flutter, Amoonguss, that's really solid. I wonder if it's going to be a Trick Room Flutter, because like why else is Luna there without limited speed control? We could technically do a same type of lead. I think that like this lead is actually just really good versus most Shempow leads, but we don't outspeed. So in the future, if we do keep the Lando, like think about putting enough investment in that guy to not die. I think that this is actually still a good lead for a couple. I think that you can still bring Lando. It's just that I will bring the Lando. I'm still going to bring this lead. And then I think that Hands is just a good solid Mon for chonking out the game. And then I would bring Cresselia here. I don't think you need to have the speed control from Torn. I could be wrong. I could definitely see Torn being better than something like Hands, but I feel like they're just going to be priority moving for most of the game. And Cresselia has a little bit of speed control built into its own kit with like Icy Wind and Trick Room. I don't even think this team needs Trick Room. What I would do is actually put Icy Wind and Thunder Wave, because I feel like Thunder Wave gives you a little bit more magic to work with in those games 2 and 3 settings, to where like sometimes, you know, you can just Thunder Wave things, fish for paras, it gives you out you would normally have, but you can also like side para yourself to make yourself like immune to Spore. Like you can side para your Urshifu to make it immune to like burns or spores and stuff like that. I think it's actually really cool. So against this, let's think about what we want to do. We have a big Intimidate up on the Shempow. This is where if I was using like a different Dango set, I'd probably protect here. But what I'm gonna do here, Booster Flutter is good. They probably will sub. I mean, if they don't, it's fine. Speed boost is really, really good for them. I think I'm just going to go with the Tera. Make it rain. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Remember last time we tried to go for the Rock Slide. It didn't work. We don't need to Rock Slide this time. We can just hard switch stick out for Crest, which is Rocky Helmet. If they go for the Ice Spinner into that, they're going to get their Sash broken. They're going to lose both their Mons this turn. And then my board state is Crest Dango. We just pivot out the Dango for Hands, set the Trick Room, or do whatever, and we probably win the game. And they could just nuke the Dango here. But like I feel like the Intimidate combination with Dango is very nice. And so again, this is another example of one of those, you know, I said you shouldn't be leading with Gholdengo. You can lead with it in situations like this. I'm trying to use these games as examples of like aggressive ways to close out the game, which I feel like this team does struggle with being aggressive in some situations. See if they double protect. Wouldn't be bad. Sucker. Cool. It's a good play. They are Intimidated, remember, so they're not doing as much as they might think. Make It Rain is going to go right into that Shempow. And so we got to think, like, what are they going to do here? Are they going to, like, Shadow Ball? I don't think we should leave the Dango on the board. I don't think they're going to go for, like, a Dazzle. So, like, I'm going to pivot in Hands and just go for an Icy Wind. We could Trick Room here. We could definitely Trick Room here, but I don't want to Trick Room against, like, Luna and Amoonguss, right? So I'm just going to pivot in the Hands, have a Fake Out pin for a little bit later, go for an Icy Wind. Next turn, on the turn that I'm conditioned then to respect Fake Out, I'm probably going to pivot back in my Dango and Lunar Blessing to regain that board state. And this is where if I had Thunder Wave, I would definitely just be Thunder Wave in the... Well, I'd probably Icy Wind and then Thunder Wave the Flutter. That's probably what I would do. But you can go for those Thunder Wave plays when you have more protects. They're probably going for like a Sacred Sword, or they're just like all-inning the Crest, but they shouldn't be able to get a KO onto it. They're going Tera. Okay. They're going all in. Are they picking Fairy Tera here? Are they like Water Tera? Fairy. Okay. So Dango can fight that whenever we really feel like it. It'd be nice to be able to get it in on a Lunar Blessing turn. But now we can fake out the Flutter. So, like, thanks. Appreciate you, fam. Shadow Ball? Go nuts. Yeah, they're really trying to get Dango off the board. Surprised they went Fairy Tera to do that. They didn't need to go Fairy Tera there. Special D-drop there does suck. We're going to get a double. We're going to get a K on the Shempow. We're going to condition the Flutter into respecting our fake out here. So this could be a turn that we swap in the Dango. I could just heavy slam that thing too. Depending on what they send out, I want to see if it's like a Amoonguss maybe. It is. Okay. Amoonguss good mon. Can't do anything about that. We can go fake out and pivot out Crest for Dango. Pivot out Crest for Dango. think Fake Out is the right play here. I think that what you need to do in this situation as the opponent is either you're A, clicking Rage Powder, or B, you're sporing the Crest, right? Because it's pretty obvious that we do have Rocky Helmet. We switched it into block an attack like that. So that's absolutely fine. I don't know if they spore the hands. I don't see a world where like spore hands is amazing. So let's see what happens. Because you could always just Lunar Blessing. Why? I don't see a world where that's like the play. Because you could just Lunar Blessing here and be like, bro, whatever. But I think this is fine, because hands, it has to be asleep this turn, but we can always just send it our, like, we're still going to be fine. Just click that into it, it's not going to wake up. There's no reason to pivot out the Dango. I actually think we just live the Shadow Ball. It's neutral, and their Protect is on cooldown. They can go for sub, but they're just pivoting it out. Cool, that's a good play. And they can't spore the Dango, so we don't really care. So we're just burning a sleep turn here. Heatran, we've seen everything they got now. And they've already Terra'd, so all we need to do is just get Landorus in safely. And we should be in a good spot. Nice. It's a lot of damage on the Moongus. I didn't think that would even do that much. And we need to see if the Heatran is lefties or not. It's probably orbed. Scary face of Moongus. That's good as gold. I've never once seen that. Ever in my life. Okay, weird. Black Sludge. All right, we're gonna definitely pivot out the Dango for Cress and then try and wake up with hands. I would say that we could Drain Punch that guy. It's fine. Yeah, just pivot in. There's a possibility that we wake up this turn with hands, but I highly doubt it. We don't need to respect the Gholdengo. We don't need to respect the Amoonguss slot. Okay, they could still be switching out Amoonguss too. Heat Wave, absolutely fine. Can't burn the hands if it's asleep, right? Nice. I'd like to get burned. That's good. That means they can't spore that slot. That's actually really, really good for us. Really good, actually. Like, super good. There's the orb that we were talking about. Cool beans. Hands is still asleep. Never lucky. It's fine. Spore blocked. We don't even know who they targeted with Spore either. That's the thing that sucks about that. Let's think about what we need to do here. We will definitely click Lunar Blessing, but I think I'm going to Lunar Blessing and Heavy Slam the Amoonguss. This does two things. First of all, it would KO the Amoonguss. And second, if they switch out the Amoonguss for Flutter to try and take advantage of this and get their Regenerator proc on the Amoonguss, this would just win the game. Rage Powder, cool. Yeah, so we'll get a heal, KO, and then they send out the Flutter, and then they can, like, KO the hands. Oh, Earth Power Heatran. Good play, good play. Not going to get the KO just yet. We have a really good board state here, too, that has, like, remember, their booster is gone, so all we need to do is really stick one Icy Wind into that Flutter, and we win the game. So I love Icy Wind Crest for reasons like this. Hand's going to wake up from the Lunar Blessing, and big Heavy Slam. Nice. And so I'm thinking what I want to do here. If we stick the EQ, we just come in with Lando. EQ should probably... Actually, this Landorus is a really weird set, right? It doesn't actually have, like, a ton of attack or speed on a Scarf set. I don't think, like... we don't even have Earthquake. Oh, my gosh. Do we not have Earthquake on... Oh, my gosh. Okay, well, then that answers that question. All right, so we'll figure that out. So let's see. What do we want to do here? We can just lose the hands. I think that just losing hands is fine. You can Earth Power. I mean, I guess we could just pivot in. There are arguments to be said for, like, pivoting in Lando. Not that it, like, I'm going to try pivoting Lando and just go for the Icy Wind play. The argument for pivoting in Lando is you're going to use Dazzling Gleam. It won't kill the Lando. And if you Earth Power there to avoid missing a Heat Wave, this could get us into a situation where, like, we can then use our hands as Fake Out to, like, actually help condition them, because they can't both respect hands and Dango at the same time. Dazzling Gleam's absolutely fine. It shouldn't get any KOs here. Yep. Heat Wave shouldn't even either. Heat Wave. Ooh, they're faster than Crest, though. Alright. No KOs. No KOs. We're good. We just gotta hit these two Icy Winds. Nice. And so now that we hit these two Icy Winds, we should be able to outspeed. This one Icy Wind will lead to us being able to potentially bully some of their other mons. I think what we want to do in this exact situation, as weird as it sounds, is probably go for, like... I think the right play would be something like Stomping Tantrum, respecting Heatran. It's going to protect, and they're going to click D-Gleam, but then we get a second Icy Wind, which means we can then send out Gholdengo and click Make It Rain. They'll protect their KO the Dango, and then I have a board with hands, but then they're going to be so low. Or we could just try. I don't think we KO the Flutter with anything here. I'm fine. I'm fine playing this completely standard. I think we are going to be able to get this win no matter what. We just have to... We just got to play a little bit of the long game here. So I'm here. Oh, they just take the L. Right. It's fine with me. Yeah, we create little bars where our opponent has to meet us at specific levels. If they don't meet us, they just take the L. Because what we were doing there was if they wanted to protect their Heatran, they were going to have to take another Dazzling Gleam drop on their Flutter, which means we would have then sent out Dango, and they would have been a -2 slower than the Dango. We could have been, and even slower than the Crest. We could have clicked Lunar Blessing, got Dango topped off, Shadow Ball, OHKO'd Heatran, and then put the Shadow Ball into the Flutter and won the game. So that was the idea there. That was the flowchart we were going for. But they just didn't protect, so they misplayed, and then we just take the wins without even having to do all those things. So now we outspeed. And there's not really a reason to do anything there. You might as well just click this in case they protect for some reason. Yeah, making it rain up. And we take those wins. So we showed 3 games with this team. I think there are a lot of little things that I would want to fix EV-wise. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a look at some of the EVs with this team, some of the moves, and give ourselves just a little bit more of an option to be a little bit more fluid in Games 2 and Game 3 after dictating play in Game 1. So again, here is the team. I think it's pretty good. I think there are slight optimizations we can make, though. Let's start taking a look at the actual Poke Paste right now. And the first thing you want to do is whenever you submit teams, make sure to do your EVs for level 50 as opposed to doing them for level 100, because EVs are calced differently at level 50, 100. You can see his hands had EVs made for level 100, which is not correct. I changed the Lando over. Let's start things off by taking a look at the Gholdengo. I think a lot of people are using Thunderbolt right now because it can pin things like Flutters and other Mons like other Dangos once they go Water Tera, but I really think you don't need it. I feel like Corviknight's not big enough to warrant Thunderbolt anymore. It actually doesn't even get KOs on things. I think you should put Trick here, just because Trick is tricky, and this is something you can do when you lead for Shimpow when you're super pinned to just not die to Sucker Punch, and that's enough of a reason. You only really need Make It Rain and Shadow Ball. Power Gem's good for closing out games against like Torkoals and Arcanines, and especially Dragonites and stuff like that if you have to. But Trick is a good move set, or good move here, and I really think this is just a solid Gholdengo spread. This is my favorite set for Gholdengo. It lives basically everything, so it's good. Tornadus is another weird one. I think that Covert Cloak is good on Torn, and I would still... it's hard to say. In Ladder, I would definitely use Covert Cloak, but like in a tournament, the item here that I would use is a little bit different. You could put like 4 or 5 different items here. Mental Orb can be good, Sitrus Berry can be good, Safety Goggles can be good, because you can use this Mon as a pivot to Amoonguss, soak the Spore, and then repin. I've talked about that multiple times, how important that is against those really high-level players that want to use Amoonguss correctly. That being said, Covert Cloak's still really good, but like, I don't think it's like, I don't think in Fake Out is like so good in best of 3 open team sheet. Like if your opponent's going to be using like a Fake Out combo, you can just go with like a really standard lead of like Crest hands and not really care, right? So if Fake Out's like that important, we can just play around it. So that being said, I don't think you should go Covert Cloak here. I think a lot of people would say Mental Herb, but I don't think you need Mental Herb either. You also don't need Covert Cloak because you have Protect. If you're really afraid to protect, like something like that, just Protect. I also think Protect's really good on Tailwind setters, so you can then re-enable your Tailwind a turn after. So like, as weird as it sounds, if you want to play a bulkier Torn like this, you should just go Sitrus Berry. This is going to be the item that's going to give your Torn the value, the stick-around power that it needs. Also, like, combining that with like the Intimidate from Lando, it can be really, really good. So I would try something like this. Just try it. If it doesn't work, think about going Mental Herb. Think about maybe going like Safety Goggles or other defensive items. But this is a solid set. You also can just go Grass. I feel like this is a waste to have Grass if you want to put Goggles there. But like this is a much harder to deal with Torn than most people would think, and it's really, really bulky. So I think this is good. I think this is good. Let's see. I would say this is a fine speed spread. This is fine. This is fast enough. The only thing that's outspeeding you are like things like you're outspeeding Garchomps. Now you're fine. You're good here. The Lando, this is where it comes down to. So the big thing here, this is my personal opinion, and I don't know if this is like a hot take, but I know a lot of people really like U-turn on Lando, especially these Scarf Landos. I actually think any situation where you might want to U-turn with Lando, you should just hard switch it. Case in point, you could get Rocky Helmet procced, you can get redirected, they can protect bait you, which means you don't get your switch off, and U-turn on Lando is good if you want to bring in another Mon that has like a ability that activates upon being sent out. So you U-turn and cycle your Intimidates with Lando. So you can lead with Lando, U-turn, and get like a second Intimidate and deal damage. We don't have any Mons that work like that. We don't have any weather setters or anything weird. We have just a bunch of Mons that come on the board and then like lose their Sash or take way too much damage. So if you're ever going to swap the Lando, just swap the Lando. So you were talking about in your submission post, right? Which is over here. Back and forth between having Stomping Tantrum and Earthquake. Put both. Like, use both of them. Bruh, like, just use both of them if you're going to use it. Try it. It actually is really good. I think Landorus is a good Mon at being able to check things like Heatran, but to be completely honest, I know we're talking about, like, if you're fine with the set, like, keep it. You don't need to have this Lando set. I think you'd be much better off with something like a Life Orb set, and then making sure your Landorus outspeeds something like Gholdengo. I would say make sure Landorus always speeds Gholdengo. So let's plug in, like, Landorus-Therian. Look at me picking the right Landorus to work with. Because Landorus does something that a couple other Pokemon can't do. And it checks Heatran in every single option. So Gholdengo's an 84. I think Heatran's an 87. So you might just want to make sure that we're outspeeding Heatran. You don't even need to go respect base 90s. Stuff like Annihilate, you don't see those being full speed enough. So let's go. Let's find Heatran. So here's Landorus at 91. These guys aren't going to be full speed commonly enough. Like, yes, sometimes you fight like Lilligant, Flamigo. Those can pop up. Galarian Moltres can pop up. But they're not usually full speed when they are. So we need to find Heatran. We know that we're outspeeding Gholdengo. Where is Heatran? I thought Heatran was... Is Heatran in like the 70s? Maybe Heatran's like a 78 or something like that. Let's just plug in Heatran. Could have swore Heatran was like just a little bit faster. Heatran's 77. Okay, cool. I thought it was 87 for some reason. So yeah, we want to outspeed Gholdengo then. So yeah, just outspeeding Gholdengo is enough. You then by proxy would outspeed things like Heatran. And let's get back into it. So Gholdengo is going to be an 84 base speed over here. It can be full speed like this and timid. So we need to get to 150 on our Lando, which is actually the same calc that Lando sets used to run for Sword and Shield to outspeed things like Calyrex at +1 and Zacian. So you can see we still actually need to be jolly to get there. But we don't need to be all this investment, so you can take a lot of these points out. So you can go 208, sorry, 204. Don't want to waste those last 4 points. So 204 speed. And then what I like to do, you can do this like 3 or 4 different ways. You can go straight up 252 and just be an absolute beast with this Landorus. And you can go like 4-4, 44. You actually cut this down to a 36. Put these last 4 in either one of these 2 stats. I would say probably special is better since we packed the Intimidate. You want to end this with a 9 so you take less from your Life Orb. And then from there we would change our move set to be something like this. First Mon that's getting Protect. So Protect, I would still have Rock Slide. I think Rock Slide's still really good on Lando, but you could have like, you have Rock Slide, you could have Tera Blast for coverage on Heatran, Grass, and Bug, and then Earthquake for the other one. You may be thinking like, well, I don't want to Earthquake my Dango. It's like, well, you just swap Dango here, you swap Dango here, and other than that, this guy's going to be able to protect. These 2 are flying, like you're going to be able to be fine. So this is a Lando set that's a lot more aggressive, a lot. But you need to be this aggressive with this Pokemon, and now that we actually have Protect, we can like swap in Crest, Protect, Wound, or Blessing to like recap off our health pool. If you want to build a bulkier Lando, you definitely can. You don't need this much attack at all. You can actually drop a lot of this attack out. Let's see how much attack we can drop out of Lando. Well, we're looking at Gholdengo, right? I'm just trying to give you like a set that like works. So like Earthquake will deal a lot. That's no investment. So Life Orb, they're big dunzo, right? To a doubles Earthquake. Super dunzo. But if they're a bulky Dango, they get to live it, right? So that's why in those situations, like I'm still comfortable with going like full speed. Full like, not full speed, but full attack in that situation. Because like full bulky Dango would be able to bulk that out. That being said, let's take a look at Heatran. So Heatran here. And let's plug in like a Tera Blast. And give ourselves a Flying Tera. Click the button you can see against Heatran. If they were to click Grass, they take a lot of damage. But if they're like a full HP Heatran, they still die. So they'd have to have like significant investment or like an Intimidate user, and then like you can get them. It's a 6.3% chance with full attack. So like that's why I like the full attack. But if you want to take like some points out of attack, maybe go down to like 204 is probably the lowest I would go, and then put the rest of those in like varying HPs or like varying defenses or special defenses. Be my guest. I think it could definitely work. It's something that you would probably need to optimize over the course of like testing in 20 or 30 games, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. As for Urshifu, it's cool having poison and poison jab. I really think though that like you just need detect. This thing cannot work without detect. I know you talked about in your submission post you want to use this guy over Urshi Water. Normally you'd see like Rain Dance here and then like this guy, and you're using this Urshi instead. I think this is a fine Urshi. It's good EV spread obviously. Poison can still be the Tera that you choose, but you gotta have detect on this thing. Otherwise, it just comes out and dies. Like we talked about, like good players solving for X, seeing like, oh, that Urshi can't protect. You can always just double into it, and then they're gonna get AKO on something. So I think that detect is good there. I would still go full speed. You could even realistically, if this were me, if this was my team, I would be using a Scarf Urshi here, and a Scarf Urshi would look something like. Obviously, you would have Choice Scarf, and you could actually just use the same EV spread, but just make it adamant, because when you take away the speed boost from this plus the Scarf is like roughly the same speed as the Landorus, so you're still outspeeding things you need to outspeed. That being said, Sash is fine. You should be using a Sash on this team somewhere, so it works, but think about keep it in your back pocket. Scarf Urshi still works here, and it changes the way the speed tiers work, so it's good, but it definitely is like one of those things that like it means you just can't bring Urshi as often, but it is a great. Like, you're going to win one game out of your best of 3 in every single set with a Scarf Urshi at some point. They're going to be able to see it, not have anything to do about it, because you're going to be saving it till the back. You're going to be using things like Hands, Tornadus, Lando, Crest throughout the mid-game, and just eventually at some point, you're just going to bring out Dango, bring out Urshi, and just go pop, and then the game's over. And that's how you're going to win like your game 1 or game 2, and then you can actually play the game correctly for game 3. Going into this Hands, solid set. I think we're talking about maybe using Water Tera Hands. That's not bad. If you want to go Water Tera Hands, that's fine. If you want to go Grass Tera Hands, that's fine. I think Fire is still a solid option. This is a good move set. I think I would still probably like the Volt Switch over Heavy Slam. That's just my personal opinion, being able to cycle this mon just a little bit better. I told you I'm not that big of a fan of this guy. But the biggest thing you got here is, the biggest problem here is you're wasting EVs. 64 doesn't get you anything. It's right in between 60 and 68. 8, again, also doesn't get you anything. It's in between 4 and 12. I also note that you have 22 here. I don't know what that's for, but in reality, you'd rather be faster than slower on this guy. So I would probably do this. I'd rather 812 amount. I'd rather just do this and make sure my hands can outspeed other hands, so I can just fake out other hands confidently. So if I see anyone have other hands, like let's say I want to lead like Iron Hands and Landorus for some reason, or Iron Hands and Urshifu, and they lead their Iron Hands and maybe something like a Gholdengo. I can just fake out their Iron Hands with my Iron Hands, know full well that I am in the advantage there, and I can just one-shot their Gholdengo with a Wicked Blow. In a situation where they probably thought they could fake out my Urshi and trade fake outs with me and get like a Nasty Pot or something off. So, just throwing that out there, I'd even maybe think about putting more, like 20 points or 28 points, because Hands is popular, but that being said, this is fine. Good set. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it. Cresselia, you have good Tera here. I would say maybe Moonblast over Dazzling Gleam, but that's a personal preference. I know Moonblast can KO Urshi Dark if you have the Moonblast with the Fairy Tera in some situations, but Dazzling Gleam is great at breaking Sashes. It's great at dealing chip, playing around with a little bit of redirection, really good against Shempow Knight, so it's good. I think the biggest thing I would change here is this would be Thunder Wave. So you don't really need Trick Room. I don't even think you ever want to Trick Room with a team like this. You're just too fast. Anything that you like would Trick Room, they have to have like an Amoonguss somewhere. They have to have like a Torkoal or like an Ursaluna or even just a bulky Mon. Like there's no person you're gonna be playing past like round 2 or 3 that just has 6 things that are above like 100 base speed. That's not gonna happen. And even if they do, you're locking like half your team out. You had this on like a Scarf Landed with a Trick Room team before. It's just, I don't think you need it. I think you can just weave and protect with your teammates, go for a Thunder Wave, get that -2 on them, and then you're good to go. That being said, I think taking a look at your EVs, I like the 12 here. I think that your 4 here is good. If you had 12 points here, you'd be able to go Fairy Tera, Moonblast, KO, Urshi Dark, even if they had some bulk. So that's something worth noting. You don't really need to. I think these EVs are like low-key fine, but I would still probably put the max HP investment on my Cresselia. One thing, I know so you're playing it in like open team sheets, so you don't need to bluff correctly, but like realistically, if you were just to max that out, put the rest in here. I would say put way more in defense than you really are. Yes, you get like a bigger return on your Spadef investment, but like you only need like 52 in Spadef to not really die to anything, and you can just max out that defense slot. If you combine this with the Lando, I think the calcs that you had didn't take advantage of like adding an Intimidate onto it. You can make it so you will never, ever, ever die to a Shempow. So you can like lead Lando, Cress, protect Lando, like Icy Wind. Next turn, pivot out Lando for Gholdengo to block the ice attack. Icy Wind again, now Gholdengo outspeeds. You didn't even have to go for Thunder Wave, which means you played around Taunt, and then you can just go for a Make It Rain, Hard Switch back in the Lando to make sure they can't like suck a bunch of K of the Dango. It's like so good. It's so good. It's those little things. Like this team has the potential to be really, really good, but, right, you have to be able to like understand what you're telling your opponent and how you can condition them and react in the ways that you want to. You got to dangle the right mons on the string out in front of them, and you got to punish them for over-respecting your automatic win conditions, right? They're trying, you got to force them into like overcommitting. They think like, I can get that Dango off the board. I can get that Landorus off the board. I can get that Urshifu off the board. And you're like, nope. Cresselia says, Icy Wind, Thunder Wave. You got to go through this first. So I like this set a lot, and I think that like you don't really get diminishing returns or anything here. You're really, really bulky. And yeah, I think this is a much needed upgrade to this team's its general playstyle. We're gonna go play a couple games on Showdown and see if we can keep the win streak alive. So let's hop into it. Okay, so that's pretty standard, right? They have 3 Intimidators, which means like we don't really care for Urshifu, and Lando actually has a good matchup against almost all of those. So like Lando could do stuff here too. I think in this sort of situation, this is gonna be a really good game that can show off the value of Cresselia, and I think like just being able to correctly Icy Wind things is probably going to be really nice. So I'm going to lead Cresselia here, or we can lead like a more aggressive, like we can probably get away with like leading Gholdengo Torn, but I don't think we need to. I think Landorus could also be a solid lead. Maybe we could lead like Landorus Cress, bring the Gholdengo in the back. I don't think we need to bring Urshifu ever. Urshifu just gets pinned by these guys awkwardly enough. I think that the Tornadus for like a mid to late game, bringing your Tornadus out in the mid to late game and just setting a board state where you have like Torn Dango after they get a couple KOs off on these mons, and you just roll them over with a Tailwind, Make It Rain. So we get the priority here is getting off this Gyarados, because like we do neutral damage to Arcanine with Make It Rain, we do neutral damage to the rest of their mons. So if we can get this Gyarados off the board, we will be in a good spot. So I think in this sort of situation, I think we would just protect for one turn. Don't really care what they do here. We could go for a Thunder Wave and play around, and not play around Taunt. But I feel something like an Icy Wind is just a good play, because if they Dragon Dance here, we're in a good spot. So protect here. Taunt, good play. I mean, we Icy Winded instead of Thunder Waving, so good stuff. We have the speed control that we need. They can fake out here if they want. We're not really as afraid as we could be against those guys. So we're going to pivot in the Gholdengo. We're just going to Icy Wind again. Again, this stops them from being able to Dragon Dance and regain that speed tier. Fake out, absolutely fine. Take that Rocky Helmet damage all the way to the bank. Waterfall, not going to do a whole heck of a lot. So in this situation, this is a good turn to click either the Power Gem. I think you can actually Power Gem the Gyarados right now, but I will actually just go all in and Make It Rain, because I want to get that Rilla off the board, and we're going to pivot in the Lando here. So one more and double Intimidate here. There we go. And so next turn, we're going to pivot out the Gholdengo for Crest, most likely. It would have been nice to get the Rilla off the board, but it's very, very bulky Rilla. Sitrus Gyarados is a pain in the butt. Oh, they crit us through double Intimidate. That's very, very unlucky. Super unlucky. I would say the most unlucky that you can possibly ever unlucky. But I don't think it's the end of the world. Crest comes out here. We could have brought out Torn and gone for like Bleakwind, but I don't think that that's actually the right play. I think that like the play that we need to do in this exact situation is going to be like Rock Slide advantage. So like I think something like, I don't know if we need to like Dazzling Gleam here or even like Thunder Wave. Thunder Wave on one of those mons could be really good. I'm just going to click the Dazzling Gleam. I'm just going to click the Thunder or Rock Slide. Should be able to get some KOs here, at least on the Rilla. Nice. So we got crit really bad. Taunt there's fine. So next turn they're not going to taunt. We can protect Lando, pivot, and Torn. And then we're waiting out the rest of this grassy terrain. And we should be good to go. Actually, do I care about this? How much damage did we do? We did 10% to Gyarados. I think I'm actually fine to Dazzling Gleam and just like protect here for a turn. Yeah, like what do you do? Like Head Smash. Wow. Not today. Not today. So Gyarados gets ticked out next turn. So we want to Intimidate, cycle that Arcanine correctly. Let's see, do we need to... We do need to Icy Wind once to be able to break the Arcanine. So pivot in here. Protect is good. It's a good set. Head Smash the Crest. Wow. Big recoil. Nice. So now we outspeed with everything. So it doesn't really matter what we want to do here. I think that, like, I think we just want to Dazzling Gleam and Bleakwind. I think that's probably the best play here, but we can also just Protect. I think that there's nothing really wrong with Protect. It's a good play. Static damage into those guys, and that's just a scoop. So you see, like, the adding of, like, Protects on these Mons just, like, made them not really have a win condition. We just saved the Landorus correctly. We got unlucky in that game, too, and we were able to actually regain board state by using Cresselia, and you can see, like, how much value just, like, putting those extra points in defense really was. We're going to go in another game, though, and see if we can continue winning. All right, this is super, super standard. Shempow Dragonite, like, hands, Fargiraffe. I don't think they're going to bring Fargiraffe in this matchup because we don't have that much priority, but I do think we can get away with some really cool leads. I think Cresselia is just a great lead here. If they want to fake out it or dedicate resources to it, it's fine. We have Rocky Helmet. We can always use Cresselia as bait to, like, swap in on, like, an obvious, like, E-Speed and or all-in play. So we could lead, like, Landorus and another Mon and pivot in the Crest, but I don't think we need to. I think Crest is just a good lead if we pair it with a Protect user. So, like, these two are just a solid lead. You bring out the Gholdengo, bring the Tornadus in the very back to enable our Gholdengo to then sweep. This is going to be an easy win. Cool. Fargiraffe's fine. Yeah, this is... I mean, if you want to trigger me, you're still slower than me, so, like, I don't really care. And you can fake out here, but, like, go nuts. Like, I don't know what you think you're doing over here. I'm actually just going to Thunder Wave the Fargiraffe because, like, why not, right? There's not, like, a reason not to. I don't think we die to Ice Punch here either. And if they're Ice Punching, they're not fake outing, right? So it doesn't matter. Yep, flinch is fine. You can trick them if you feel like it. Like, ain't no thing. Imprison. Yeah, they thought I was going to trigger him. Not today. And so we're completely fine to just chill here, I think. We don't even need to click Icy Wind, but I am going to click Icy Wind because I think they're going to... Actually, I want to check and see if Dazzling Gleam would work. It says you might have some moves disabled. Won't be able to cancel an attack. That's incorrect. It wouldn't let me use that move. So it looks like they probably don't have D-Gleam. Anyways, Icy Wind's fine. We can just Earthquake. Absolutely fine. The Icy Wind here, we're in such an advantageous situation, which they have to swap in something, right? You see this value? Like, easy peasy. Like, what are you going to do? What you going to do? Absolutely busted. Like, that lead was just, like, really not the right play for them, you know? And so we don't need to do anything extra with Lando here. We can actually just do Dazzling Gleam Protect. If they want to fake out the Crest, that's fine. We don't need to switch. We don't do anything. If you want to fake out the Crest, you take Rocky Helmet damage. Yep. And then we just pivot out Lando for Dango next turn and use the D-Gleam. Save our Intimidate. But you see, like, how these situations where we basically can use Crest as, like, a point. A point is a Mon that basically says, like, you start the game at this point and then you pivot around correctly. And so, like, the whole game's, like, built around Cresselia being able to not die on the first turn, which is really hard to OHKO a Crest, right? You have to taunt it, and, like, you can't taunt Icy Wind. So we always get what we want out of it. And so this is the exact same board state that we kind of talked about here. This is not a good situation for our opponent. We can just go Dazzling Gleam. We don't even need to click the Steel Tera, but, like, I'm going to do it because I want to. Big damage. Just want to get that Fargiraffe, like, off the board. Hopefully we do. Hopefully it's not Sitrus. 2 HP. 2%. Never lucky, bro. Storm Tantrum. Yeah, it's fine. And Trickham's fine. We don't really care. D-Gleam. Pivot in the Landorus. And it's game. But yeah, I wanted to see how much damage we did with the Make It Rain. But yeah, like, I feel like Crest needs to be utilized a lot more when you're unsure and you want to force your opponent to reveal resources. They're going to have to reveal what they're doing on Crest. And all you have to do to, like, see what that is just protect with your teammate and have Crest click a move. And you're going to be absolutely fine in pretty much every single situation. They've been critting us all day. Never lucky, bro. And in this situation, you just protect because you don't want them to, like, do it. You want them to Drain Punch the Crest. Oh, dude, Fighting Tera, dude. Big damage here. Drain Punch. Nah, see, I'm not letting you get any health back, bro. The flex. No flex zone. So we're going to take those wins. Again, I think this team, as submitted, is fine. It's absolutely fine. It just doesn't have the protects to be able to actually be fluid enough to outplay your opponents in Game 2 or Game 3. I think this team is definitely good enough to get to Master Ball. It's good enough to play in online tournaments, but you'd be hard-pressed to do anything other than, like, a slightly positive result because you don't have the defensive capabilities that we added by taking a look at, like, the team builder and stuff like that. We added, the Gholdengo's basically kept the same. We added one move. Tornadus, we basically kept the same. We added a more defensive item. Landorus completely changed, made it way more defensive and aggressive. It's both. It's basically still doing what your Landorus did, but now we have the option to playing, like, a little bit longer game, and we don't just On the Scarf Lando set, they wait and see what you walk into, and then they punish. With this set, you're the one dictating play, and you just use Landorus as like a checkmate piece. And it makes so Gholdengo isn't the only checkmate piece on this team. Before, like I talked about using Gholdengo, like saving it in the back with a Tailwind and just coming out and winning. Now you can use that same play with the Landorus and make it so Gholdengo doesn't have to do all the work. Urshifu, we basically kept the same, but we gave it to Tech, which is very nice. If you want to change Poison Tera to something else, be my guest, but I think this is good. Hands, we basically just fleshed out a little bit of the EVs, cleaned them up just a little bit, but it's a solid Mon. And then the Crest, we basically just gave Crest a different understanding of its matchups and how you can like be a little bit more board present with your Cresselia. So hopefully you like these changes. If you guys have teams you want to submit on Patreon, again, this was the team type chart. That's why it's so standard going forward. I think this is a great type chart. But if you guys have teams you want to submit on Patreon, the submission posts are open. You see, I'm doing these videos like every other day on YouTube, but I'm recording them every single day. And right after this video, I'm going to go type up and reply to them and say, here are the changes. So I give you guys your changes immediately. You wait a couple days for the video, and I'm trying to get through as many of these as possible. I'm doing these every single day. So if you guys like these sort of videos, think about throwing a like on the video. Think about leaving a comment saying you support this sort of content. If you want to support even more, think about checking out the Patreon. Like I said, even the lowest tier, the $2 tier, gets access to all these posts. We're making daily content on Patreon. So think about checking that out. And other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you guys next time.